SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Good morning. Welcome in. It is the start of a new week today, April 20th, 26th. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Hope you had a great weekend. Show is brought to you every day by, is presented every day by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We start things off with the C Spire text line, open to you this morning, 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. That's the number for you to jump in and be part of the conversation. Right now at C Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet, plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today. Lance, good morning, sir.
Good morning, RC. How was the weekend?
It was an outstanding weekend. Outstanding weekend. Road trip to Baton Rouge on Friday with the boy. He had a lacrosse game Friday night. They were down 5-1 at the half, came back and won 8-7. So that was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
We spent the night there Friday night. Had you ever been to the coffee house in Sorrento?
I don't think so.
Good little beignet spot. Met up with some family there, and they call it the Cajun Village. They've got like the little alligator deal you can look at for the kids, and kind of some shops together. There's a breakfast spot in there, and then went from Sorrento over to Laplace, and went out on Lake Pontchartrain and ran crab traps. And brought a pretty good mess of blue crabs home.
Oh, aren't they so delicious? Oh, my goodness. Kind of a pain to get to, but, man, I love it.
Yes. I mean, yes, they are. You ever get frustrated, like when, and maybe this doesn't happen to you, but you have the tools necessary, but something is missing, which makes using the tools that you have necessary for a project not really as useful as you need them to be.
Yeah, it's like having two left hands when you're a righty.
Yeah, that kind of is. So I've got the big jet burner, and I've got the big crawfish pots, but I didn't have the right hose to connect a propane tank to the jet burner. Mm-hmm. And so I finally ended up with a low-pressure hose. It just doesn't do the same thing.
Didn't do it right, huh?
You got to have that high-pressure hose where you can get the higher number of PSIs of gas through there and get that. Because it's the difference in your burner going and going.
It's like a jet taking off.
You need the jet engine to cook that big pot of water. But anyway.
Well, you got it done, though. It just took longer.
You got it done. And
everybody's like, we want some crab. And got to give me a minute, team.
Is it? People ask the question with crawfish, is there enough meat for it to be worth it?
Oh, yeah.
And the answer on that to me is yes. Mm-hmm. Because once you know what you're doing, you can go pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, man. Need a bunch of those.
I don't know that the answer to that is yes with blue crab.
It is from work, man. You got to have like 400 of them.
Yeah. Well, So, anyway.
It's good sweet meat. I mean, the meat is very tasty, though. It's so delicious.
It is.
But, yeah, it's definitely one of those that you have to work overly hard for it. The reward is scant, and then you look at, I got to do this again. Okay, yeah, over and over again.
So that's just 30 PSI. Yeah, that's what I needed. I needed the 30 PSI cable, and hose. I just didn't have it. I needed the 30 PSI regulator on the hose, and I didn't have it. So that's what I needed. I guess it was a 20, and it just doesn't run quite as jet engine like. How about you? Good weekend?
Oh yeah, no complaints. Yeah, the Rebs were got 2 out of 3, and no problems on Saturday. We had a great garden and a great handyman show. So, and then check. I didn't do a whole lot Sunday. I'll be honest with you. I just kind of was a little bit heavy yesterday. Went and ate all-you-can-eat catfish for lunch. So that kind of slowed me down a little bit. So, yeah, it was not a very productive Sunday, unless you count, eating as much catfish as humanly possible, which I did. Yeah, I chalked that one up. I won.
Yeah, the kind of the icing on the cake for our trip home. So we finished up around lunchtime out on Lake Pontchartrain and took a right on Highway 51 and headed straight to Middendorf's.
Oh, I love that place, man.
And got the thin catfish, and then brought it on home after that.
It's hard to beat that.
Good weekend.
I love the little spot too, because there's not a whole lot there. I mean, it's grown over 50, 60 years. My grandfather and grandmother would go out of the way to go there, and it was kind of like one of those places where it had a lot of nostalgia connected to it. But I don't go through there without stopping and either getting the thin catfish plate or either I love the sandwich, the po' boy. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, try to eat that while you're driving on the bridge. That's always fun.
Little messy,
a little tough, yeah.
It was a little cooler this weekend. The wake up temperatures the last couple of days a little different than they have been for the last couple of weeks, and that's going to continue for at least a little while longer. Holly Springs, you're going to be up to 78 today, but your overnight low is going to be around 45, mostly sunny with light winds today that are going to start out of the north and northwest, and then throughout the day will shift to the south, about 5 miles an hour. Going to be dry and pleasant. It was good. We got a little bit of rain this weekend, right?
A little.
You were talking about Garden Mama.
Mm-hmm.
We were dry, brother. Yeah. All across the state of Mississippi, we were dry, and that system that made its way through on Saturday kind of gave everybody a little bit of a bath.
Yeah, it hit just when it was supposed to. It wasn't quite a lot of rain though, but there were those little intermittent spots that had the red and the good stuff out there if you were looking for a gully washer. But no, it was mostly drizzle, and it was enough to get everything wetting down pretty good, which I appreciated. But it wasn't a big thunderstorm weekend, thank goodness.
Carthage, you're going to bump up against 78 degrees this afternoon. The overnight low tonight going to be around 44, mostly cloudy to partly cloudy with breeze, just a light wind today. 78 degrees today, the high in Macomb. Going to be partly cloudy with winds out of the southwest, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Really low chance of any precipitation for you. 49 degrees tonight for your overnight low. Van Cleve, 80 beautiful degrees today. 48 tonight for the overnight low. Breezy out of the east around 10 miles an hour. That coastal influence may make it a little warmer for you today, or it may at least feel just a little bit warmer in Van Cleve.
I love the wording there. Slightly warmer due to the coastal influence. I like that. I was like, man, that's the economy? You're talking about the heat of the coastal economy down there warming things up, or the influence of what a great place.
Could be.
Man, I need a trip to Ocean Springs. I mean, I truly do.
Just for lunch?
Yeah, just to run down for the day and come back.
Yeah.
That's in my sister's, she has that part of her territory now. Mm-hmm. And so she's really enjoyed that, being able to get down there. And then Oxford and Ocean Springs both in her territory now. She's like, oh, I love it, man.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Different direction. She hasn't invited you for a ride along?
No, not yet. Yes, she knows where I'm at on Monday through Saturday. So I don't think my schedule and hers work out well, but I would definitely take her up on it. I'd drive for her, you know. That's what you do for your sister.
There you go. There you go. How do you say this cat's name? Is it George Takei?
Takai.
Takai. Okay. If I were a good Star Trek fan, I would know that.
Well, he's the weirdest guy on the planet, too.
George Takei was born today in 1937. He's 89 years old. An American actor and activist, best known for playing the role of Hikaru Sulu in the original Star Trek television series and the films. He's also a prominent voice for, he likes to protest a lot.
Alphabets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's funny, though. He's hilarious, but he is a strange guy.
Yeah. Jessica Lange is 77 today, born in 1949. The actress and two-time Oscar winner, known for her roles in Tootsie, Frances, American Horror Story, and King Kong.
I love the King Kong original.
Andy Serkis is 62. He was born in 1964. Portrayed, is it Golem or Gollum? Golem in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And Caesar in Planet of the Apes. Just getting started with you. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning, start of a new week. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
From the heart of Mississippi to the halls of Washington, D.C. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, your source for hard-hitting political insight and unfiltered truth. Now, here's more on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you this morning. Thanks for joining us. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Appreciate you joining the conversation. C-Spire text line, the best way to do that at 601-879-4395. Luther Vandross was born on this day in 1951. The legendary R&B singer and songwriter known as the King of Smooth Soul, with hits like Never Too Much, Here and Now, and multiple Grammy wins. I don't know why this is the hill that I want to die on, but I'm curious. Have we gone too far with the royalty and music titles?
I mean, I think he's earned it on soul, though.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, Luther has.
Okay.
But I want to hear
but
out
it's
your
not
argument.
soul. It's smooth soul.
Smooth soul.
Because James Brown is the king of soul, or wait, is it Otis Redding? And then the king of country is George Strait, and the king of rock and roll is, of course, the king, which, when it comes to music, really is the only king that I think we should be. Maybe whatever.
I'm with you. I'm following your train of thought here.
And then we got the king of the blues, and the prince of blues, and the princess of the blues, and the princess of soul. It's just like, I can't really remember.
Smooth soul is like love song soul.
Okay.
Yeah, that's his specialty. It's kind of like the date night soul stuff.
That wouldn't be Marvin Gaye. That'd be Luther Vandross.
He's a little more. I mean,
Marvin Gaye would be more R&B.
I think, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I would say Luther kind of has the cap there on the love song, date night soul. You and the wife go, have a bottle of wine and a candlelit dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of known for that
So
appeal.
who the king of R&B is? R. Kelly.
R. Kelly. Well,
who's the prince of R&B? Curious about that.
I don't know about that.
Can I get an org chart for all of...
An org chart.
I don't know. As we go through a lot of these birthdays, we see a lot of royalty in the music world. And then there's Sir Elton John.
Yeah. You get that when you get to English, right? They got a bunch of sirs. They don't have a lot of ma'ams, though,
Carmen Electra is the princess of Baywatch. She's 54 today, born in 1972. The actress, model, and singer known for her roles in Baywatch and the Scary Movies. Bit of a pop culture icon in the 1990s.
Oh, definitely.
Napoleon III was born on this day in 1808, French emperor. He was nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, who ruled the Second French Empire and modernized Paris.
Yeah, you got to run it back a third time, French.
Yeah.
He did. The railroads were built up really well and had a cool name.
Okay.
But outside of that, we grew up in exile. You always wonder how it's going to be for like the potential leader of a country that did not even grow up in the country. Was exiled. I mean, you always worry about those things. But yeah,
you think they kept passing down the names. Like somewhere out there is there a Napoleon the 11th?
There's got to be. That seems like a very important name to carry, especially if you're in, the French bloodline.
You would think.
Yeah, man.
Some kid running around going by Nappy.
Nappy, going by 12.
What's up, Pole? Crispin Glover was born in 1969. I'm sorry, 1964. The actor known for eccentric roles in Back to the Future. He was George McFly, also in Charlie's Angels and Alice in Wonderland. And Don Mattingly. He's having a birthday today, born in 1961, former captain of the New York Yankees.
Had that poster. It was he and Bo Jackson were the two that always were on the wall.
Which Bo Jackson poster?
Well, he was in the Royals jersey, the powders.
Oh, yeah.
Had the powders on, and then it was like he was hitting a home run, and the bat was kind of back behind him, I think.
You didn't have the shoulder pads baseball bat?
I had that one, but that was like on the back of the door. The one that was always on the wall was the powder blue Royals, and then the Don Mattingly and the New York Yankees pinstripes with the absolute awesome mustache and chaw jaw just full up there with red man.
Bo Jackson, the cyclist and the archer. Now,
yes, he was. He has what I remembered had a full basic archery setup in his house, and he'd sit down there for hours upon hours and making arrows and gluing things on and testing everything out.
You watched the 30 for 32, didn't you?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I was always a big fan. Going to Auburn, that was kind of a thing. Bo was always my favorite player, so you didn't get to know as much about him back then. There wasn't Google.
I learned over the weekend he did not wear the same number in football and baseball. It's 34 in football. You remember that? You remember his baseball number?
Yeah, it was a single digit.
29.
29, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Today in 1290, a grand round table tournament was held near Winchester, England, in imitation of King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. It was attended by King Edward I to celebrate a royal betrothal.
Mm.
It's a wedding, right?
Yeah. Betrothing.
In 1777, New York adopted its first state constitution during the American Revolutionary War. In 1861, Colonel Robert E. Lee resigned his commission in the United States Army after his home state of Virginia seceded from the Union, later becoming a key Confederate commander during the Civil War. In 1862, French scientist Louis Pasteur and Claude Bernard completed the first successful pasteurization test. It was a process that would revolutionize food safety.
They're like rock, paper, scissors. Who's going to get to name it, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, Bernard didn't get it.
Yeah, he picked paper. In 1902, Marie and Pierre Curie isolated the radioactive element radium chloride, advancing the field of radioactivity and earning them the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, I guess it was not the Peace Prize. It was just the Nobel Prize in physics at the time. A little interesting baseball trivia. In 1912, Fenway Park in Boston and Navin Field, which later became Tiger Stadium in Detroit, both opened their doors on the same day for their very first Major League Baseball games.
That's pretty cool.
Fenway Park still standing, Tiger Stadium not so much.
Man, they built that thing. It was like 500 feet to center field.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like that. The day of that,
with the steel girders that were holding the upper deck up and terrible sight lines.
Yeah.
1971, the United States Supreme Court unanimously ruled that busing students for school desegregation was constitutional. In 1972, NASA's Apollo 16 lunar module Orion, commanded by John Young and piloted by Charles Duke, successfully landed on the moon. It was today in 1999 when you had the Columbine High School massacre in Littleton, Colorado, right outside of Denver. 2 students killed 13 people and injured 24 others before taking their own lives in that awful school shooting. And finally, it was 2010. 16 years ago today, the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico, killing 11 workers and triggering the largest marine oil spill in history.
And that thing was ugly.
Ooh,
goodness gracious.
How
How long did it go? It was like a month or so before they finally were able to seal the baseline down there.
It was bad. Really, really bad. All right, got some news headlines for you this morning. Love to hear from you on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. The Coca-Cola Company is celebrating America's semi-quincentennial 250th birthday with new packaging represent every state. Many cans of Coke products are now featuring a design unique to all 50 states, plus Puerto Rico and D.C. From Georgia peaches to California's surf scene, each design features one symbol representing cultural contributions to the United States over the last 2.5 centuries. July 4th, 2026 is the 250th anniversary, of course, of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Company is aiming to generate 250,000 volunteer hours in 2026. They're working with local artists across the country to produce dozens of public murals, and they're going to place America-themed branding events throughout the year, including at the Coca-Cola 600, the PGA Tour Championship, and various music festivals throughout the year. Mississippi's mini can is now available. It features a paddle wheeler representing the historic riverboats that have cruised the Mississippi River for over a century. Is that the right art for Mississippi?
I mean, somebody chose it. They didn't ask me. I probably wouldn't have gone with something that old, you know.
What would you have gone with?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'd have to think that through. But probably kudzu, you know. No, I'm kidding, but like a big tractor or something. You know, agriculture is the largest industry in the state of Mississippi. I'd have probably stuck with the farmers, maybe.
Commemorative cans are available nationwide at retailers. Coke, Diet Coke, and Coke Zero packs are included. Cans are distributed randomly within the packs, meaning Mississippi consumers will have to try their luck to get their home state symbol. We're back with you. More news headlines and your sports update is next.
From the Home.fm. Keeping it real.
It's time for you to get real with it.
And keeping it Mississippi. Your voice for statewide and national politics. Yes! Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Once again, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us as you get your day started on what's going to be a gorgeous Monday across the Magnolia State with temperatures in the 70s and then overnight lows in the 40s. Going to be a little cool as we go through the week and the weekend. Thanks for joining us. You can jump in on the conversation on the C Spire text line. We're telling you about the Coca-Cola cans with the artwork on them commemorating the semi-quincentennial of the United States. Did you know that Mississippi played a key role in the Coca-Cola Company becoming the world's largest non-alcoholic beverage manufacturer? Back in 1894, Biedenharn, I think I said that right,
Perfect.
Candy shop
nailed it.
in Vicksburg became the first to bottle Coca-Cola. However, store owner Joseph Biedenharn decided to start bottling his own soda to expand sales beyond the fountain. And as they say, the rest is history. Today, Coca-Cola sells roughly 2 billion drinks a day. That's more than 20,000 a second.
There's 8 billion people on the planet. Think about that.
Yeah. Don't know if that was the best decision, but you've got the museum there in Vicksburg to see it. In an effort to continue serving patients in the Mississippi Delta, while also negotiating a potential deal with the state's largest public health care system, Greenwood LaFleur Hospital last Wednesday officially filed for bankruptcy. The medical center, which has been at the forefront of the state's rural health crisis, took its case to the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Mississippi last Wednesday, contending that it is unable to pay its debts. The move comes after GLH laid off 86 staffers last week and shuttered multiple departments, remaining embattled in a legal dispute with the Mississippi Division of Medicaid. We talked about this a fair amount last week. Medicaid seeking to recoup $5.5 million in overpayments to GLH, jointly owned by the city of Greenwood and LaFleur County. Administration officials have expressed interest in UMMC gaining full control of the healthcare's facility operations and ownership of its facilities. We will see how those negotiations go, but supposedly this was the next step in the process that had to happen. After evaluating roughly 80 candidates and whittling the list down to just a few finalists during an eight-month national search, the Board of Trustees at the IHL announced on Thursday that they have selected Dr. Denise Jones Gregory as president of Mississippi's largest HBCU, Jackson State. Gregory has been the interim president since May of 2025 after Dr. Marcus Thompson resigned from the post amid litigation that was pending against him. Gregory was selected following a first-round set of interviews that included 8 candidates, second-round interviews of 3 candidates, and a detailed background and reference check that was conducted by a search firm that the IHL used before taking on the new role. Dr. Gregory worked as provost and vice president of academic affairs at Jackson State. Her candidacy for her new position became much more viable when a group of individuals connected to Jackson State was added to the search process. And the IHL later revoked a policy that restricted an interim president from submitting their name as a candidate for the permanent position. Both moves seemed to signal a shift from traditional IHL policy to a new one that emphasized feedback from those with a deeply rooted interest in the university, which seems like a good idea. There has been more turnover than there should be at the top leadership at position at JSU for the last couple of decades. I think there are a lot of stakeholders tied to Jackson State that are pleased with this decision and the way that it played out. Had a hard time making myself understand this story. Mississippi roadways may be riskier this summer, according to a new study examining how safe it is to drive during the summer months between June and August. Money Geek found that U.S. summer road deaths fell by 3.8% year over year from 2022 to 2023 and another 4.5% in the following year for a total decline of better than 8% nationwide. Most states saw improvements over the 2-year period. Mississippi and a couple of other states, though, went the wrong way. According to the study, Mississippi, South Dakota, and Iowa had higher summer fatality rates in 2024 than in 2022. Massachusetts apparently is the safest place to drive in the summer, with 0.67 deaths per 100 million vehicle miles of travel. Mississippi checking in at 1.88 during the testing period. making it the most dangerous. The spread between Massachusetts and Mississippi of 2.8 to 1 means that it is 3 times more likely to have a death on the Mississippi roadways during the months of June, July, and August than it is in Massachusetts. We don't have all the numbers from 2025 yet. They have not tabulated those, but there is an expected significant drop in traffic fatalities in Mississippi the next year this study comes out. So we will wait anxiously for Money Geek to publish their updated study that includes 2025. Right? We will wait anxiously for that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, if the data's incomplete, man, you always got to love it when you get picked on when you don't have the full picture.
Yeah. All right, baseball results from the weekend. It was a good weekend for Mississippi State. The Bulldogs had lost 6 in a row after being swept consecutive weekends at home. This past weekend, they went on the road to South Carolina, and the Bulldogs started things off on Friday with a 5-3 win over the Gamecocks, 5 runs and 12 hits in that Friday game. On Saturday, the Bulldogs were able to blank South Carolina, just kind of wallop them 9-0, 9 runs on 14 hits. And then yesterday needed a little extra time. It took 11 innings to get to the outcome yesterday, but Mississippi State finished off the sweep 4-3, the final in yesterday's ballgame. Ole Miss was on the road also this past weekend. Rebels went to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. And they got things started on Friday with a 7-4 victory. They followed it up with some late offense on Saturday. What was a pitcher's duel going into the 7th inning turned into a bit of a blowout. Ole Miss blew things open in the top of the 9th. En route to an 8-1 victory over Tennessee to take the series. Yesterday, though, it was the Tennessee offense that really had its way with Ole Miss pitching, and the Vols got game 3 of the series, finishing things out 13-5 yesterday. Almost kind of chipped away. They were down 7-1. It was 7-5, then 8-5, and then Tennessee able to drive the ball out of the yard. They had 5 home runs in the game yesterday for a 13-5 win to salvage a game in the series. All in all, though, a good weekend for Ole Miss.
6 homers for Tennessee, actually.
Oh, it was 6?
Yeah, Blake Rimmer had 3.
Yeah, sorry I shorted them 1.
I was waiting for that game just to get over.
Yeah. And a good weekend for Southern Miss, a sweep at home for the Golden Eagles. They are now 11-7 in conference play. That's the good news. The bad news is they are 4 games behind red-hot Coastal Carolina. Southern Miss 28-12 overall. Coastal Carolina's overall record is 28-11, but the Chanticleers are 15-3 in Sunbelt Conference play. So going to try and have to make up some ground in the final 4 weeks of the regular season. If you would like to hear from the coaches, you can do that this afternoon on Sports Talk Mississippi. Christian Ostrander will join the conversation in the 3 o'clock hour, Brian O'Connor in the 4 o'clock hour, and Mike Bianco in the 5 o'clock hour as well. Mississippi State got some good news over the weekend. We'll tell you about that when we come back. We've also got your Mississippi Lottery update on the way. Mornings with Richard Cross. Good morning to you. Hope your day is off to a good start. We appreciate you making us part of the start of your day. We're back right after this. We'll wrap up the 6 o'clock hour with MRC on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
From breaking news to bold opinions, Richard dives into the stories shaping Mississippi and the nation. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. The estimated jackpot for tonight's Lotto America drawing is up to $22,430,000 with an estimated cash value of over $10 million. It's been a while since we've had a winner on Lotto America, so that jackpot is growing. So is the Powerball jackpot. No winner over the weekend. Tonight's drawing is up to $87 million. Mega Millions is up to $140 million. The next drawing for Mega Millions coming your way on Tuesday night with an estimated cash value of almost $63 million. There was a Mississippi Match 5 winner on Friday, a ticket purchased at State Line Express Mart in Caledonia. Matched all 5 numbers to win the $350,000 jackpot. Those winning numbers were 1, 7, 11, 30, and 34. So congratulations to the winner there. Busy week at the Mississippi Lottery Claims Office last week. They paid out over $1.5 million in winnings, while lottery retailers across the state cashed more than $5 million in winning tickets. Be sure to check out the Mississippi Lottery for all that is happening there. The website is mslottery.com, mslottery.com. And don't forget to download the Mississippi Lottery app from the App Store or Google Play. Gave you some baseball scores from the weekend. Our morning sports update is brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort is your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. It is also the home of the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. 2 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas, courses that you can play. Book your tee time online at dancingrabbitgolf.com. That is dancingrabbitgolf.com.
It looked like Georgia was teeing off a little bit on, was it Saturday? 26 to 14.
Georgia was ahead of Arkansas in Game 3 of this weekend series, 15-11, going to the 9th inning. They won the game 26-14.
Yeah, 14.
Georgia had one hitter, Michael O'Shaughnessy, that had a grand slam and a 2-run home run in the 9th.
In the 9th, yeah.
As a team, Georgia hit 9 home runs in that win. That was an SEC record, and pretty impressive. Yeah. The Georgia Bulldogs can swing the bat.
Buddy, they can. It was it's like, buy a vowel or something. I mean, let's just bomb Central. And it was hard to watch if you were, I'm sure, an Arkansas fan. You already had 6 errors, in that game too. So, but to even be in that game in the 9th, I thought was, pretty improbable for Arkansas. But
it was a game that in either the 6th or the 7th inning was tied at 9. Yeah. It was 9-9 in the later stages of that ball game, and Georgia won it 26-14. Whew.
Yeah, it was. I haven't seen one like that in a long, long time, man.
Not a lot of pitching left at the end of the weekend in Fayetteville.
No, and both teams, solid teams too. Getting after it, but not much is ever left on a Sunday. It just seems to be. You never know. It's roll the dice day. It's kind of how I always put it on a Sunday.
By the way, the Georgia Bulldogs are headed to Oxford this weekend. Georgia leading the SEC with a record of 13-5 because Texas A&M and Texas were only able to play 2 games in their 3-game series a couple of weekends ago. Now you've got wonky standings where you've got to look at winning percentage the rest of the way. Mm-hmm. A&M is 12-5. Texas is 11-6. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, Oklahoma, and Florida all sitting at 10-8. Then you've got Alabama, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt all at 9-9. Kentucky and Tennessee are 8-10. LSU swept again this weekend at home by Texas A&M, is now 6-12. South Carolina swept at home by Mississippi State, 5-13. Missouri swept at home by Oklahoma, is 3-15.
LSU's coach Jay Johnson put out a kind of a presser. Yeah, that was impressive. Don't know if you're going to endear yourself to your team that way, but
he basically said, we made some evaluation issues, and this will never happen again.
Yeah. He's like, we don't have the guys that we need.
Yeah. Probably a good thing that he has won 2 of the last 3 national championships.
That's exactly.
I don't think he's feeling any heat, per se, but that is an unhappy bunch in Baton Rouge last night. Told you good news for Mississippi State, fresh off winning the Howell Trophy for the best college basketball player in Mississippi. Mississippi State standout Josh Hubbard announced that he is coming back to Starkville for his senior season. The Madison native has stayed put for all 4 years. He said in an announcement, let's call 12 one more time. Let's run it back. 1,947 career points and a school record 311 three-pointers for Josh Hubbard. 7 o'clock hour on the way right after the news. We're back with you after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
On with the show.
Is back. Holy smokes. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Now that I'm starting to learn, I feel I'm growing old, 'cause yesterday's got nothing for me. Oh, pictures that I'll always see. Time just fades the pages in my book of memories. Brands in my pocket.
7 o'clock hour. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us, for starting your day with us on this this Monday morning, April 20th, 2026. We are glad to be joined by you. Glad to be part of your routine. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC. This hour of the show, the 7 o'clock hour, not just today, but every day, is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. If you don't know exactly what that means, but think you would like to learn more, give them a call. The number is 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Again, mwgemployerservices.com. So what is going on in Iran? Is the strait open? Is the strait closed? Is it the Strait of Iran, as Donald Trump called it over the weekend, or is it the Strait of Hormuz, as we've kind of all known it? Was that a diplomatic tip of the cap in calling it the Strait of Iran, or just a slip of the tongue? I don't know, and I don't know that it matters. What I do know is there is a lot of confusion, and I'm not sure that this is going to be good for the Iranians. So I guess let's kind of do this in order. On Friday, you had the announcement from Donald Trump that said the strait is open. And the stock market soared. Now, Lance, you and I had well, it's pretty one-sided. You sent me a lot of information. A lot of information. I was mad at you at one point, honestly.
What is he doing to me?
Well, I had AirPods in and was mowing and weed eating, and about every 4 minutes, I would get the voice message like, you have a text from... I'm like, I'm trying to listen to a book right now while I'm weed eating. Stop sending messages. And then I went back and read through all of it. It's pretty interesting. And it was a lot to say that, okay, the stock market it's a financial tool, but it's not necessarily a great indicator of the actual economy and lots of other things. But we do all recognize that the stock market is at least a current measure of investor confidence, and it's a pretty good measure of stability globally, even in micro doses. And what we had going into the weekend with the markets and with the price of oil was soaring. Thomas says your weed eater is that quiet. No, I've got noise-canceling AirPods. They work. You can be riding a lawnmower and listening to a book. Do that all the time.
Multitasking.
Yeah. And so on the news that the strait was open, which calling it open was a little bit of a misnomer because the United States blockade was still in effect, but they were basically there for like security and escorting purposes, just to make sure that everything was running smoothly. And that was part of the agreement, was the United States is going to stay in place until we're sure that this is all working. Good thing they did, because guess what? Iran changed its mind. How is this possible? First of all, how is it that Iran agrees to this? We've talked about this before. I guess we'll continue to talk about it. The division of power, or the power vacuum that exists in Iran right now, has led to a splintering of government and a complete misunderstanding isn't the right word, but it's like, who's in charge? You have the IRGC, which has basically been obliterated, but you have some hardliners that are still kind of in charge, and they've got some missiles and some bombs. And so they kind of control ultimately what Iran does, but you've also got people within the Iranian government that are trying to make peace, that are trying to stop the destruction of their home country. It's all over the place. So what happened over the weekend? Well, there was an Iranian flagged ship that was trying to go on like the cannonball run through the Strait of Hormuz, or the Smokey and the Bandit eastbound and down version. We're just going to try and run through all the roadblocks and get through to the end. Bad idea. Maybe they should have had Smokey and the Bandit piloting that ship, because the United States ultimately attacked and seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship that it said had tried to evade the naval blockade near the strait on Sunday, and Iran's Joint Military Command vowed to respond. How? Not entirely sure, but they vowed to respond, and it has thrown a very, very fragile ceasefire into question just days before it expires. The ceasefire is set to time out on Wednesday. This was the first interception since the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports began last week. Iran claims that the United States took place in piracy. I'm not sure it's piracy when you give 6 hours worth of warnings. Turn around. You are violating the ceasefire agreement. Turn around. Turn around. And then we finally shot a hole in the engine room. After sending them a message in which we said, abandon the engine room. Repeat, abandon the engine room. Repeat, abandon the engine room. Then we shot a hole in the side of the boat and then boarded it with Marines and took over the boat. So the uncertainty has sent oil prices rising again. And Trump went to social media, Truth Social, as it were, and explained that a U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyer in the Gulf of Oman warned the Iranian-flagged ship, the Tuska, to stop and then stop them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. And we were checking to see what was on board. So, negotiations are supposed to continue tomorrow. And a negotiating envoy from the United States is making its way to Pakistan. The only question is, will they just be there to talk to themselves? because the Iranians have not committed to being part of the negotiations. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ismail Bakai, I don't even know if that's close to the right pronunciation, but he's not listening, so who cares? The foreign ministry spokesman says that Tehran has no plan for another round of negotiations with the Americans, stating that, quote, if the U.S. sends a team to Islamabad, that is a matter that concerns them. He went on to say the Islamic Republic of Iran does not accept any deadlines or ultimatums to safeguard its national interests. We have clearly stated our red lines from the beginning, and we will not change our principled positions. In none of the stages of current or previous negotiations was the issue of transferring Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles to the U.S. or any other country raised, and fundamentally this option is not on the agenda of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So, is he lying? Were there factions within Iran that agreed to the removal of the remaining enriched uranium? There has been a lot of discussion online about Donald Trump's tactics and the way announcements have been made. And as opposed to under-promising and over-delivering, there has been an insistence that Donald Trump is using as a negotiating tactic, over-promising and under-delivering for the sake of trying to paint Iran into a corner. Is it working? Is it ultimately going to work? To be determined. But the question about whether or not it was worthwhile to invade Iran in the first place because of their ability to make a nuclear bomb took a little bit of an interesting turn yesterday, especially for those who said that the whole "they're almost to a nuke" crowd was all made up. We'll tell you more about that next.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
What's a frequency can it is your entity? I was brain that locked out, no, not up to speed. I thought I packed you.
C Spire text line is open to you. Don't forget about the Ultimate Connect bundle available right now from C Spire. New and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. That includes the new iPhone 17 and the Samsung Galaxy S26 for free, and a free smartwatch and a tablet to go with it. So don't wait. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com or stop by your local C Spire store today. That's cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. So you had a post yesterday from Donald Trump on Truth Social in which he pointed out that today an Iranian flagged cargo ship named Tuska, nearly 900 feet long and weighing almost as much as an aircraft carrier, tried to get past our naval blockade, and it did not go well for them. The U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the Tuska in the Gulf of Oman and gave them their fair warning to stop. The Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. U.S. Marines have custody of the vessel. Iran is good and mad about this. President Trump has said that U.S. negotiators will be in Pakistan on Monday for another round of talks with Iran, but several hours later, Iran had not and has not confirmed that it would attend. Trump is telling them, hey, remember Bridge Day and Power Plant Day? That's back on the books. And he's threatening to destroy the infrastructure in Iran if it doesn't take the deal that the United States is offering. Meanwhile, the strait is apparently closed to shipping. It remains unclear if either side, going into potentially another round of negotiations, has shifted their stances on some of the unresolved issues. And the fragile ceasefire is set to expire on Wednesday. So I said before the break, an interesting interview on 60 Minutes, which is not exactly noted as being a Trump-supporting news outlet, and a guest who works at the Harvard Kennedy School's Belfer Center. Harvard, not exactly known as being a Trump-supporting entity either. And so to get this information from those two places kind of makes you think that maybe this administration was on to something with regard to what Iran's nuclear capabilities were when we began this conflict.
There's no doubt that the combination of the strikes in June of last year and the ongoing war have seriously set back Iran's capabilities. But the remaining capabilities are substantial. You can't bomb away their knowledge.
UN inspectors believe Iran has close to 1,000 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%, nearly ready to be used in a nuclear weapon. 970 pounds of 60% highly enriched uranium. What can you do with that?
So that is enough material for, if you enrich it just a little bit more, for 10 to 11 nuclear bomb.
And when we talk about 10 to 11 nuclear bombs enriched a little bit more, you're talking about warheads with the capability to be long-range missiles. I had a conversation with a nuclear scientist professor off the record a few months ago. And he said, Richard, look, he said, when we talk about purity of enrichment, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, you're talking about the ability for long-range missiles. Long-range missiles. You can take short-range missiles with 50% enrichment, 60% enrichment, and have plenty of effect, which certainly is concerning to a place like Israel. So, what about this stockpile of weapons? Stockpile of enriched uranium. If you go back to November of 2012, I'm sorry, not that far back, November of 2017, so a decade ago, Iran had about 200 kilograms of enriched uranium between 3.5% and 5%. Nothing at 20%, nothing at 60%. If you move to 2020, they had about 1,750 kilograms of uranium that was enriched between 3.5% and 5%, and still none even at 20%, much less at 60%. If you fast forward to November of 2024, the total weight of low-level enriched uranium, that 3.5% to 5%, was north of 2,500 kilograms. 20% enriched uranium was at 839 kilograms, and they had 182 kilograms of enriched uranium at 60% or better. And as we fast forward to now, that number has gone up to nearly 1,000 pounds. And so in this quest for highly enriched uranium to create warheads, the question is, why did they want it? We have nuclear powers all over the world that have enriched uranium, that have the capability of warheads, that have existing warheads that can be used, and you know what? They don't use them. The United States doesn't. Russia doesn't. The United Kingdom doesn't. Pakistan doesn't. But you have somewhat sane leadership groups in all of those places. Do we think that Iran, whose mantra under the IRGC as a country for 47 years has been death to Israel, death to the United States, death to the Jews, do we think that they have been actively working toward enriched uranium for the sake of warheads so they could sit on them the way the other nuclear powers in the world have? My assumption is the answer to that is no. Somebody sent us a message on the C-Spire text line a little while ago that says, you can't, it was Joey. There it is. Joey says, you cannot believe a single word they say. They are liars. They say it's open to let people let their guard down, and then they'll attack you. I hope Trump can stop it. Iran does not even need 1% enriched uranium. So, RC, what you're saying is the stockpile of cash that was left there by the last administration helped get that much uranium? Because I think so. That is from DK. The timeline checks out, doesn't it? Lance, if I'm not mistaken, that timeline checks out. If we go back to 2017, where there was a minuscule amount of enriched uranium that had no warhead possibility, and we fast forward a decade, it would stand to reason that the resources that were made available to Iran during the Obama administration were used for this program.
Well, the timeline nails it. And two, what did you think they were going to do with it? I mean, like they're not over there going, we're going to only use this for peaceful purposes. As one of our listeners just said, you can't believe anything they've said. I mean, so yeah, it almost is like you paid them to enrich uranium.
CC in San Antonio says maybe the Iranians just like a little uranium with their cornflakes. Mm-hmm. Maybe so. Some people like bananas on their cornflakes. The Iranians like a dose of uranium. We'll touch on this a little bit later, but interesting story here. A refund system for businesses that paid tariffs, which the United States Supreme Court ruled that the president imposed without the constitutional authority to do so, is scheduled to launch today. Boy, don't you know that this is going to be an easy, seamless process.
What a mess.
Importers and their brokers will be able to begin claiming refunds through an online portal beginning at 8 a.m. today. I guess that's Eastern time, so probably already. That's according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Wait, can they administer this program if they're still not funded? Don't they fall under the Department of Homeland Security? First step in a complicated process that also might eventually lead to refunds for consumers who were billed for some or all of the tariffs on products shipped to them from outside the United States. Companies must submit declarations listing the goods on which they collectively put billions of dollars toward the import taxes, et cetera, et cetera. We're back after this.
From this
Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Monday morning, new week. Glad to be with you. Today is the 20th of April, 2026, just after 7:30. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for starting your week with us. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Big world out there, crazy world out there right now. Marie Sanderson joins us because she's going to help us make sense of it all. Marie has worked in politics for a long time as former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. She is a GOP strategist as well. Good morning, Marie. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you too, Richard.
I heard you and Lance joking before we got started. Kind of feels like the world's on fire right now. There is a lot going in a lot of different corners of the world. It's almost hard to keep up with everything.
It's very hard to keep up. It feels like there is so much news in every sector. And I mean, you covered a lot of the important stuff on your earlier segment, but it's just crazy.
When we look at what is happening in Iran right now, it's almost startling to hear that we have negotiators that are either on their way or already in Pakistan. We're not sure if Iran is sending negotiators to Pakistan right now. I heard one news report where they classified President Trump as whether or not Iran was going to call his bluff. How much more of this has to unfold before Iran realizes that the president is not bluffing in all of this?
Well, I'm not a foreign policy specialist, so I'm going to tell you that right off the top. But we do know our president is a masterful negotiator. He's surrounded by people who have been in foreign policy for a long time. Secretary Rubio is at the top of his game as far as negotiating. And so you have to believe that there are others, encouraging the Iranians, other countries to come to a deal. I was disheartened to see the news that there might not be talks today in Pakistan, and I'm hopeful that there will be, because I think Americans overwhelmingly want to see this conflict come to an end, and we know that the president and his team are driving towards that.
The politics of this whole episode, this entire conflict, are interesting to watch, and I don't even know if interesting is the right way to describe it. For example, on Friday of last week, the stock market finishes at an all-time high, and the price of oil plummets, and you see people on the right who are immediately celebrating and talking about where this has been. But the second that it turns, you have people on the left saying, "Oh, the economy's in shambles. See, the stock market is in a free fall." How much of this? I hesitate to ask this way, but I'm going to anyway, and you can take it however. How much of this is a political game?
Well, I don't know if it's so much a political game, but what people care about drive election results. And we know right now that the number one issue to voters, and it was also a very important issue, although talked about as the economy, it's been reframed as affordability. And it's very important to both sides of the aisle. And so when you have Democrats saying, well, this isn't the president who cares about the economy, doesn't care about your family's pocketbook, you also have Republicans saying, no, he has, and this is why he's put trade policy in place, and this is why he's trying to stop bad regimes from doing things. I think the problem is both parties are failing to communicate. Our side, I'm a Republican, have failed to really communicate why we're going to Iran. Americans don't understand why we're there, and I think maybe even some of the president's advisors would say we could have communicated that a little better, and we're going to do better articulating what we're trying to do here. But Democrats don't have a solution either. If you ask an independent voter why they're voting for Democrats, they don't know, because we don't know what the Democrats are for, except for transgender care and other things that Democrats wish that they weren't, mainstream Democrats wishes they weren't branded.
It's interesting that you talk about messaging, because that was kind of a theme of some of what we talked about a week ago with things here in Mississippi, with regard to the rural health care fund that was out there, and who needed to be distributing those dollars, whether it needed to be done by the legislature or it needed to be the governor who was in charge of distribution. And one of the things that we talked about, whether you're whichever side you agree should be in charge of distributing those funds in Mississippi, nobody had the ability to clearly communicate to the people of Mississippi a message of, this is what we think is right. Do any politicians at this point have the ability to do that? Because communicating effectively may be more difficult than it's ever been, because you have counterpoints that are amplified, but you've also got to do it in smaller sound bites or smaller, shorter bursts than you've ever had before. How do you do that now as a political strategist who's worked in this space for your most of your adult life?
You're exactly right. It is very hard to communicate effectively right now, but the most successful elected officials do so and do so with discipline. You have to decide what your message is, and you have to say it over and over and over again. Have you ever been to a fish fry? Because I know you travel the political circuit a lot, and you notice that you're hearing the same speech you heard at a steak dinner a week before. The most effective politicians are the ones who say the same thing and say it over and over and over again. As it relates to the rural fund, I would encourage the elected officials who are trying to talk about this fund is to pick one or two things that this fund is going to do, and it will do wonderful things for our state, and talk about that over and over again to those constituents. As it relates to who controls the money, you know as well as I got my start working for Governor Barber. They've been fighting over this for years. Every time there's a new set of money, they fight over who gets to control it. And I'll reserve my opinions on that for a later date.
Well, we don't have to wait for a later date. If you want to come with those opinions right now, we are more than happy to provide the forum for you to do that.
That's my diplomatic answer on that one, Richard.
She will go with a polite chuckle and another sip of coffee as Marie waits for me to move on to the next question. It's not just dollar distribution though. In the PBM discussion, the pharmacy benefit manager discussion, one of the things that I've thought all the way along through this is it's such a complicated issue, and nobody really has figured out a way to communicate what their position is to the people of Mississippi. It's hard to understand, what am I supposed to be for? Whose side am I supposed to be on?
Well, this is a very, very complicated issue, as you probably know better than anyone. I've heard both sides of the argument. But again, it's who will benefit from this? What are the problems? There are two sides to every story. But once our elected officials decide what they're going to do, it'll be a compromise of some sort. And a good compromise is one that both sides hate. Then they're going to have to explain where it is, why they've landed, and what it'll mean to their constituents and why they're going to vote for it. And it might be a really hard vote, and they're going to have to figure out the best way to communicate that.
And that seems to be the only remaining issue that potentially could be taken up by the legislature this year here in Mississippi. Doesn't really feel like there's going to be a special session, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see on that. I feel like every time we visit, I get to midterms and talk to you about that. There's been guarded optimism from you and from others that we've talked to, but I wonder if that optimism is dwindling a little bit as we get closer to those 2026 midterms, and we understand the importance of the significance of the very slim majority that Republicans have in both houses right now.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the good news first, and then I'll get into the tough stuff.
Okay.
The good news is that Republicans will have a lot of money. The president has been raising money for a while, and he is sending one of his top lieutenants to go help with midterms. So I think once we have a message, we will have a very skilled team and a lot of money to get that message out. We also know, as I said a couple of minutes ago, is that Democrats have no message. National Democrats, independent voters don't know what they stand for anymore. So if we can define them early, then there's a political opportunity to try and blunt some of these headwinds that we're seeing. But the reality is, I saw a poll the other day of the 202 seats that are good in Republican hands. There's 3 that lean Republican and another 17 that are toss-ups. On the Democrat side, there are 199 that are a sure thing for them, but 14 that lean Democrat. So the numbers are starting to skew their way. I'm very, very concerned about the House. I think the Senate is harder for Democrats. There's a very slim path. They're certainly going to win some seats. I can go through them if you like, but I think that if we do the right thing and we spend the right money with the right message, we should be able to hold the Senate. We being Republicans.
You got time to hang with me through the break for a couple more questions?
Sure, no problem.
Maurice Sanderson, GOP strategist, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. We've seen expulsions in Congress, or retirements, or resignations in Congress over the last week, with potentially a couple of more to come. How does that affect the math for the House going forward? And maybe just a little bit of a peek at some of the state elections that are starting to shape up as we look a year farther down the line to 2027. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We're back with you right after this.
All you have done, don't. But I hope someday you will heal my lonesome.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Back with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Glad to be with you. Maurice Sanderson is my guest, GOP strategist. It appears right now that neither the Republican Party nor the Democrat Party have the market cornered on scumbags in Congress. We've seen Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez go home, one saying they are retiring, the other saying they are resigning. There are calls for Corey Mills to go home. There are calls for Sheila Sherfilis McCormick to go home as well. What is going on with the libidos of Congress people? What are we doing here in Washington?
Well, I don't know what we're doing, but I would just say we need more people, good people, to run for office. And I think the way that we have set up our political system, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, makes it really hard for people who are listening, who are saying, I might like to go represent my state or my district and go serve, but they have second thoughts because they know that they'll be talked about and they'll be tweeted about. There are all sorts of challenges. And so, I think we have an over-index of people in Washington who might be there for the wrong reasons. And I think when you travel away from your family every week and you're gone 2 to 4 days and you're in a big city, it is easy to forget perhaps your value system. And so that's just Maurice Sanderson's opinion. I think you have a lot of people who might not be there for vacations or away from their family, maybe away from their church, and they start to make really bad decisions. And you're right, it's on both sides of the aisle. And it's just really disheartening. There's always been problems, elected officials, there's always been rumors about this type of thing, but it does seem more prevalent right now. And so we need more good people to run for office and want to serve. But we also, have a system that's set up that is really hard to make that decision.
I won't ask you to divulge anything that you're not comfortable with, but one of the things that Stephen Miller in particular, the policy director for the Trump administration, has pointed out is that the way Democrats handle this stuff is they use you as a useful idiot until you're no longer useful. Like they were just fine with Eric Swalwell until they weren't anymore. I guess the question is, when you are inside the Beltway, when you're on the Hill, how prevalent are the rumors about congressmen, congresswomen who are not good people, who are involved in extramarital activity or scandal related? Because what we've heard is, the rumors have been out there, everybody's known about this, but it just hasn't reached the tipping point. How prevalent is that?
Well, there's certainly rumors, and like with anything, rumors, are for days. You hear about things, and so I think you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And so what they do is they set up these ethics commissions and they investigate and they decide which of these rumors are true and which are not. Some of these people could have rumors lobbed against them because of their political posture, because the way they voted on a bill. So, but yeah, Richard, you hear about it all the time. Mostly males, not females, obviously, but there are rumors.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where some of this goes in the days and weeks to come. Let's pull it back to Mississippi for a second. We are starting to get a little more clarity on what the landscape for 2027 is going to look like. Philip Gunn added his name to the list of people who has officially put his name into the race for governor. Michael Watson announced his candidacy for lieutenant governor last week. We saw an official announcement from Nick Bain, a former legislator in Mississippi, that he's going to be in the auditor's race. And then there are about 11 million other names that are floating around for all of these statewide offices. What is your big picture view at this point of what 2027 is going to look like, what these races are going to entail? Because I think they're going to be a lot of fun.
I think they're going to be a lot of fun. Depends on your definition of fun. But I think a lot of money is going to be spent. Going back to what we talked about earlier, money will have to be spent on getting your message out and differentiating these candidates from each other. I like all of them. I think that a lot of them have worked for our state for a long time. And so they're going to have to decide and say, particularly on the Republican side of the aisle, how they're going to be different. How are they going to make the state move forward? How are they going to be different than those who had their role before them? They're going to need money to do that. So I think we're going to see a lot of ads on TV. We're going to see a lot when you're watching Netflix or you're watching, something on YouTube. Get ready for the ads. Your Facebook feed. It'll be a ton of incoming in a state that's small like Mississippi. And those who raise the most money, again, will have the ability to get their message out far and wide. So we'll see how that contest lines up.
Yeah, it's fascinating you say that, because we don't get inundated with political ads in Mississippi the way a lot of swing states do, where every single commercial during a football game or whatever is one political ad after another. It may feel like that as we go toward 2027. One last thought from you here. How much money is going to be there for down-ballot races? Statewide races, but not at the top at governor and lieutenant governor, because so much money is going to be thrown at those races. Will there be enough money for some of those down-ballot races?
Well, they're going to have to get creative about how they get their message out. There will be money, but to your point, not as much. There's only so many people who live in the state of Mississippi. We will have outside, but probably on the side. So, very, very direct with how they talk to these people and use targeting way to spend money.
Marie, thanks as always for your time. Good insight this morning.
Thank you for having me. Have a great week, Richard.
8 o'clock hour on the way. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Hour. Good morning to you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV, third hour of the show. But for those of you that are just jumping on board, just getting in the car, heading out the door to work, getting kids to school, we welcome you to the conversation. And if you want to join the conversation, you may do so on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. That is the number, 601-879-4395. With C Spire, it's easier than ever to get all the devices you want in one move with the Ultimate Connect bundle. Right now, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet, plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. That includes the new iPhone 17 and Samsung Galaxy S26 for free, and a free smartwatch, and a tablet to go with it. Need a new phone or watch for your kids too? Well, you're going to want to check out C Spire Connect and Protect plans. Your kids get the devices they want, and you get easy-to-use parental controls to help them stay safe, starting at just $30 a month. No matter which deals you choose, you know C Spire's nationwide 5G network is there to keep your family connected with faster, stronger, and more reliable coverage than ever. So don't wait. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com or stop by your local C Spire store today. Thank you for joining us. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. Look, I don't want our conversation to be completely dominated by what's going on in the Middle East. We strive to make sure that we are covering the stories that matter to you right here in Mississippi. But I do think that there is a tie for us to what is happening in the Middle East, and it is a very direct tie. And the tie is what you're paying for a gallon of gasoline and what you're paying at the grocery store. Marie couched it as a change from what used to be a conversation about the economy to a word that perhaps resonates with people more when we talk about affordability. And so we are keeping an eye on what is happening. The fact that the price of oil went down significantly on Friday in advance of an announcement that the strait was open was something that a lot of people were excited about because they thought, okay, that means that we are going to begin to see the price of a gallon of gasoline go down. That hasn't happened yet. Will it? I don't know. I have never been one of those people that worries about how many miles per gallon do you get. My grandfather did that. But it was before that there was just a button that you could press on your control panel in your car, and it told you exactly how many miles per gallon you were getting. Lance, did you have people that maybe carried like one of those little bitty spiral-bound notepads and be like, all right, I put 21.2 gallons of gasoline in, and we traveled this many miles, and then get the calculator out or do the math right? Like, wanted to know exactly how many miles per gallon.
I don't remember either my papa or grandfather being like that. My grandfather had a Chevy Oldsmobile dealership, so I think he just pretty much just said, "Hey, I'm rolling, baby," and he always had the diesel. Was it 98? He'd trade those. I don't remember him ever really caring too much.
Yeah,
but my dad was kind of the same way. He always tell me, "Hey, son, you don't buy a car or a truck based on its gas mileage. You just buy it because you like it." So that was kind of our...
Well, I kind of subscribe to that theory, and people are like, well, how many miles per gallon you get? I'm like, I don't know. When the light came on, I put more gas in it. Yeah. But it's a little harder to do that. I mean, after making a road trip this weekend, going to Baton Rouge and back, and it's 350 miles each direction, so that's 700 miles. You're like, man, pretty expensive to fill up that gas tank. But... others say, Rich in Biloxi says, my dad and I did that, even had the cardboard slide calculator.
I love it.
My friend's dad was a Green Beret, and he made him track in a spiral-bound notebook in the glove box. I mean, I remember it. Thomas in Greenwood says, I kept a notepad because my gas gauges never worked. Well, that's good. That's a reasonable excuse for keeping a notepad. I know I get this many miles per gallon. I know there are this many gallons of gas. I need to know when it's time to fill up again. Darren and Jackson, and this is a reasonable point, and I don't think it's the first time that Darren has sent us this. How does the cost of a gallon of gasoline equate to the cost of Iran dropping a nuclear bomb?
Yeah, you don't want to find out on the nuke. Yeah.
Well, when you put it that way, Darren, I say all that to say all of this information is changing rapidly. We started out this morning talking about the fact that Iran's not even sure it's going to send negotiators. And you go, hey, is that real or is that bluster? It's bluster. Iranian authorities, as of 6:30 this morning, have expressed willingness to send a delegation for a second round of talks in Islamabad this week. That's according to a pair of Pakistani officials. The officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to brief the media said there is cautious optimism that delegations from both Iran and the United States could travel to Islamabad. Added that Pakistan will not share details about either side's travel plans. Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Also urged media outlets to avoid speculation about the timing of the talks. What else? Oh, the big voice has spoken. Not the big voice as it pertains to the United States. The big voice as it pertains to Iran. Because whatever splintering exists in terms of who is in charge in Iran, they all know that there's a guy that they better listen to when he talks. His name is Xi, spelled X-I. It's the first time that President Xi Jinping of China has publicly called for the reopening of the waterway. He made the comments in a call Monday with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. She said that China supported an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire and backed any efforts at restoring peace in the Middle East, according to a readout of the call published by the official Chinese news agency. If he is actively and openly calling for this to come to an end, for the strait to open, that begins to force the hand of Iran. A lot going on. Let's get to a couple of your messages on the ceasefire text line, 601-879-4395. Thomas in Greenwood says Iran has been 2 weeks from a nuke for my entire life. But they haven't. It's just not true, Thomas. I mean, we talked about uranium enrichment earlier this morning. 10 years ago, they may have talked about wanting a nuke. There was no actual capability. That's what's different now. The Iranians had the knowledge. They had the material. They had the wherewithal. And they had the desire. They've always had the desire. Their scientists have been developing the knowledge, but now the material and the money to build it out. And they had enough. This idea that they needed just a little bit more, no, you're misunderstanding. What they needed a little more enrichment on was long-range nuclear warheads. Or nuclear warheads to go on long-range ballistic missiles, I guess is how we should say it. Their 60% enriched uranium was plenty for short-range missiles. And please don't take my word for that. I have had conversations with nuclear weapons experts. With a person who happens to be one of the smartest people that I know that exist on planet Earth. And I'm like, help me understand what all of this means. And he said, well, these enrichment numbers are silly. So yes, highly enriched uranium is necessary for intercontinental ballistic missile warheads. Yeah, but for the more short-range missiles, you don't have to have 80, 90% enriched uranium. You can do that with 40 or 50% enriched uranium. It may not be as big a blast, it may not be as deadly, but in terms of nuclear capability, Iran had it. And maybe still does. That's why it's such a big deal to get the enriched uranium material out. That 1,000 pounds of 60% enriched uranium, which on Friday we thought the United States had to go ahead to go get. And now Iran's going, no, we never agreed to that. That's a big deal. It's got to come out. It has to. Or the whole rationale for this war was silly. We're back after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Thanks for joining us. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. You can join the conversation on the ceasefire text line, 601-879-4395. Reminder that Double Decker is coming to Oxford this weekend. You can visit the Visit Oxford website, visitoxfordms.com, or let's see, what is it? Double Decker Festival? Big time music lineup on the way, including Wilco on Saturday night as the headliner. The Instagram account is Double Decker Art if you want to see all of the things that are coming up. It's this weekend, April 24th and 25th, the 2026 Double Decker Arts Festival on, in, and around the square. Going to be lots and lots going on. Music, vendors, art, food, all of that rolled into one. You've been to a few double-deckers along the way, haven't you?
Yeah, about 21 or so, maybe.
21 of them, really?
Yeah, I went anytime I could go. I mean, living there 21 years plus college, all that time. Yeah, I mean, I worked a few of them as a bartender. That was always a good money weekend. But it was way more fun to enjoy it than to work it.
Yeah. It's
my favorite. I love it. And then, the other one that's really cool up there is the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic, which you have up around Waterford, I think is where it is. And that, I'm not quite sure when that one is exactly, but if you're
I think that's more of a summertime.
Yeah, if you're an outgoing type and want to go have some fun, there's plenty to do up there from about now until the end of summer.
Yeah. Penelope Road, the Warren Treaty, Shane Smith and the Saints all on Friday. On Saturday, it starts with Annie and the Caldwells, then the Anameros, then Mountain Grass Unit, then the Heavy, the Dip, Margot Price, and it all wraps up at 8:30 on Saturday night with Wilco. Going to be a fun time in Oxford this coming weekend. For all the information, go to visitoxfordms.com. Visit oxfordms.com. And Sports Talk Mississippi will be broadcasting live from the Oxford Square, the Pocket Park, right next to newly renovated City Hall, Friday afternoon from 3 until 6. Lance, you sent me this story earlier this morning. Do you remember the documentary? I guess it was a documentary, web report, however you want to describe it, where Nick Shirley went to Minnesota, and he discovered the early Leering Center, all of the child care centers and the transportation centers, where they were getting lots and lots of money. State of Minnesota was distributing federal funds to these entities that were not doing any work, and it was focused in the Somali community. And it was all about exposing fraud. And it was really outstanding independent journalism work done by Nick Shirley. Well, he's not stopping in Minnesota. He is looking at other places as well, including perhaps the state where more fraud than any occurs, at least in greater numbers, dollars, and that's the state of California. But the California legislature is attempting to put a stop to the work that is going on with Nick Shirley. The Stop Nick Shirley Act is being railroaded through. California State Senator Scott Wiener, wonder if he's related to Anthony Weiner? No idea. AB 2624. That's the bill number. Nick Shirley asks California State Senator Scott Wiener, can you give us your opinion really quick on AB 2624? Wiener looks at Shirley, doing his on-camera interview style. He says, I think you're a psycho scam artist, so have a good day. Shirley responds, look at how they just run away. These guys are fools. It would suck to have the last name Wiener anyway. Thanks, Nick. So that's the reaction. When you have an independent investigative reporter, there were a lot of people that said, hey, Nick Shirley's done more investigative journalism than the New York Times, USA Today, the Washington Post combined in the last year. He went on site, and no doubt it was unconventional. But basically with an iPhone camera and a wireless microphone, and started asking people questions. Hey, where are the kids? Where are the kids? It says here that you got $1 million to take care of kids in this facility. No habla inglés. Sorry, that was callous of me. I understand that no habla inglés is Spanish, not Somali, but I don't know what I don't speak English is in Somali, and so it's probably inappropriate. I did not mean it in a derogatory way. No habla inglés was more of a catch-all for I don't speak English, but anyway.
I use it all the time, so don't feel bad. Yeah, that's like my catch-all for I don't know what you're talking about, man, or just pretending you didn't hear something.
I mean, I feel like Vladimir Putin has probably dropped no habla inglés when asked, hey,
It's like, put your shirt on while you're riding a horse. No habla inglés.
Tell me about the relationship between Russia and the United States. No habla inglés. You get the idea. I was not trying to be culturally insensitive. I actually speak a little Spanish. Muy pequeño. I don't even know what I was saying. Here's what this bill is going to do. Criminalize journalists with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. The Stop Nick Shirley Act. So as opposed to investing in, hey, who's getting money illegally? Who's committing fraud? We want to put an act in place that will criminalize detecting fraud. All right, so criminalize journalists with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, content takedown. Let immigrant-based NGOs, non-government organizations, funding be confidential. We shan't have transparency when it comes to immigrant-based non-governmental organizations. Really?
There's a country in Central Europe that reminds me of, but it fails my memory here.
Take away freedom of the press from journalists. Protect any immigration support services information from being public, including health care, legal services, etc. The bill was created by the wife of the Attorney General of the state of California to stop fraud from being exposed.
Kind of hard to believe that one, but it's true.
Sometimes you get painted in a bad light if you're conservative or if you just have a functioning brain. When you make the assumption that California is a cesspool of left-wing nutjob Democrats who intentionally want to destroy the United States. You say something like that and you're like, oh, you're painting with a really broad brush. Oh, not everybody feels that way. Oh, they're great people in California. I'm sure there are. There are like 30 million people there. But if you don't think that a significant portion of the state of California believes that doing this is the right thing, you're crazy. Ask somebody what they believe, and then let them tell you, and then trust them. Listen to them talk. Watch them act. How have we gotten here? It hasn't always been like this. It hasn't. Democrats and Republicans used to disagree on some fundamental issues, but the idea that we were the greatest country in the world was kind of universal. It's not anymore.
From this Mississippi, you're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. You can be part of the conversation on the C Spire text line. Don't forget the show is brought to you every day by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. You heard that that music? That is the SuperTalk news music. It signifies J.T. Mitchell is in the house. We're going to call him Caleb. There it is.
I had the wrong name.
Was that on my name?
Mislabeled. It said Caleb Salem.
I am honored.
No, that was my fault. I picked the wrong PMix link there. I got the right one.
Yeah, that music does signify that I'm about to be on with Richard Cross, which I'm glad to. Thanks, Richard.
Hey, buddy.
It also signifies that we're about to hit you with the news. Every commercial break throughout the hour, top of the hour on some stations, middle on others, end on the others. About 50 plus statewide. You can hear our news team doing the good work, giving you the X, Y's, and Z's. So then after the commercials, you can hear Richard talk about them, analyze, opine, etc.
You hit me with a message early this morning. I guess it became official, something that we had heard, and I think it talked about on the air, maybe not with names, but the one of the statewide elected officials, statewide elected offices that we anticipate having a very crowded list of names associated with is state auditor. And we got a new name officially that you reported on earlier today.
Yeah, we did. You and I were right on this one. Prediction, 1 of 1. We've actually gotten a few right throughout this process. But Nick Bain, if that name rings a bell, it's because you've heard him on these airwaves. He is a former lawmaker from Corinth, served in the House from 2012 until 2024, and he will be running for state auditor, trying to get back into politics. No surprise, though, he told us at an event we were covering last summer that I will be on the ballot in 2027. Paraphrasing here, I'll let you know when I decide which office. Which he did today.
Yeah, I mean, he was saying that at the Neshoba County Fair last summer.
Neshoba, we heard him say that at the Independence Day festivity up there in his district as well.
Right.
So he's in. He will officially announce a week from today right there at Corinth City Hall. I guess in 20 minutes from now, 1 week from today, 9 a.m., Nick Bain will announce he's running for state auditor. And I've heard you guys talking about this throughout the morning, Richard. I think you're going to start seeing these quote-unquote down-ballot races start filling up.
Is auditor a seat that's currently open?
Not yet, or technically no. But, you know, we talk about people teasing their
Is there
plans.
an assumption that Shad White is not going to be running for re-election at the state auditor spot?
I mean, based on what he's been telling us for 2 years, I think he first said it at the Neshoba County Fair in 2024 that he's planning or thinking about a governor's run. And so if I'm a betting man, which I used to be, I would bet that he does not seek auditor again.
I think that is reasonable. I don't guess you and I have spoken since we officially got the announcement that Philip Gunn, the former Speaker of the House, has put his name into the race for governor. And again, we're talking about 2027. We're not talking about 2026. It does not coincide with federal midterms. We're talking about 16 months away from primaries.
Lots of time. And I do think that some people are going to wait. I think that the people you've seen announced so far are slightly behind the 8 ball when it comes to name ID. Philip Gunn and Nick Bain have been out of office for 2 years. Obviously, they do have good name ID or did at one point, but they got to build that back up. They need some extra time. Andy Gibson, he announced so early for a reason. He's trying to hit the campaign trail, get it out there, because he knows other people with maybe more resources, arguably, are thinking about announcing as well. I think that kind of explains some of these early announcements. But Philip Gunn, I know you've used Tommy Duff as a wild card. You've said he's a wild card. I think Philip Gunn's kind of a wild card as well.
How so?
He had a lot of power at one point. He made a lot of influential moves happen at the Capitol. My only question is, yes, you were the speaker for a dozen years, headline after headline. But then, how much does 2 years away hurt you?
Yeah.
But Maurice Sanderson said it really nicely this morning. No matter the race, I don't care what race you're looking at, and no matter what side you're talking about, but in our case, the Republican side, with busy primaries, a huge question is, how are candidates going to differentiate themselves?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And then I raised the question with Marie. We were talking earlier. The expectation is that the Republican primary for governor is going to be crowded and is going to be ridiculously expensive. The most expensive political race that has ever been run in Mississippi. And then you have the lieutenant governor's race. Right now, Michael Watson is the only name that has announced his candidacy for that. Will it be unopposed? Will he have an opponent? I don't know. How much money is going to be there for some of these down-ballot statewide races, for auditor, for attorney general, for... I'm blanking on all of the other races.
You got treasurer. That's one. Insurance commissioner.
Secretary of Agriculture, or not Secretary of Agriculture, but Agriculture Commissioner and Commerce. And how much money is going to be there for those? And how are those candidates for those offices going to get their message out in what's going to be a crowded media landscape?
I think it also depends on the Duff factor. If the state's richest man decides to run for governor, everybody else is going to be trying to raise money like crazy. Because he can step in, and if he wants, he can put $10 million down on the table.
Yeah. You're right.
And then other people, they got to immediately start putting together some funds.
A fairly busy meeting last week at IHL's headquarters. The Board of Trustees at IHL making the announcement that Jackson State has a new president, that there is an interim president that has been named at the W. Also handing off the reins of president of the board from G. Ogletree to Cunningham moving forward. So a lot going on at the IHL last week.
And they approved that 2K pay raise we've been covering for university and college professors. So it was a busy week last week for IHL. You know, Dr. Denise Jones-Gregory becoming the 14th president of Jackson State. I've been keeping up through sources with the whole process. And they had some, and I can't get on here and say them, but they had some really stout candidates for that position. They went from 80, and then they narrowed it all the way down to 3, and then they landed on Dr. Gregory. Over the weekend, over the past, half week or so, some Jackson State circles, in those circles, everybody seems to be pleased with this decision.
And I think you wrote in the story that was talking about this on our website, supertalk.fm, that the whole conversation changed a little bit when Jackson State stakeholders were added to the search committee. And they spoke, and it appears their voices were heard.
Well, they've been begging for that. I mean, IHL does a lot right, and they've just struck out recently on JSU presidents. I mean, they either end up in jail or they end up in pending litigation. And so, here we are. somebody who is so respected and has done so much for Jackson State. I think it's who the stakeholders wanted. They got their wish, and there is a lot of confidence in Dr. Gregory at JSU. And it's vital that JSU has a good president. It's the largest HBCU in the state, and it might be top 5 name recognition of any HBCUs in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then changing of leadership at IHL as part of this as well, and it's coming at a significant time. The NCHM's report, consulting company's recommendations on a new funding formula for colleges and universities is expected next month in the May meeting, and it is going to be really interesting to see what the final recommendations are. Those recommendations were put together at the direction of president of the board, G. Ogletree, who is now outgoing. I've been told that the other board members didn't really know what was in that, which is kind of an interesting way to go through the process.
Even though they do get briefed.
Yes.
Makes you wonder.
We will wrap things up on this Monday morning edition of Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank with JT Mitchell, news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team, coming up in just a bit. We're back right after this timeout.
Ain't nothing in the world like a boy or woman when she love. Tell y'all when she love. Oh, yeah.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Wash away my troubles, wash away my pain, with the rain and Shambhala.
If this kind of thing is of interest to you, college baseball fans in Mississippi, in the last hour, D1 Baseball's new top 25 has come out. UCLA remains the number 1 team in the country, as they have all season long. Mississippi State moves up a couple of spots to number 15 in the most recent poll. Ole Miss makes a big jump from number 25 to number 17. And Southern Miss, coming off a sweep this past weekend at home against Texas State, checks in at number 18. So Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Southern Miss all in the top 20 of the most recent D1 Baseball top 25 poll.
So are Ole Miss fans happy now?
I mean, I think there were a lot of people that were like, at this point, just leave us at 25.
I saw a bunch of hubbub over the weekend. Ole Miss fans saying, man, it's going to be hard for Kendall Rogers and company to get us to number 24.
Yeah, saw that as well. So we'll see. 4 weeks remaining in the regular season, then conference tournaments. Then the weekend after Memorial Day, we jump into baseball regionals. We wait a long time to get to the start of the college baseball season, and then it goes in a hurry once it gets here.
Well, it's hard to believe they've already played 40 games.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah, it goes in a hurry. All right, so the legislature came back to Jackson last week. And they gavelled in and they talked a bit and they bounced some ideas back and forth, and then they went home. And I talked about this on the air last week. I had messages and conversations with, half a dozen or so legislators, and they all had a similar theme, and it was, hey, this was not a good day for the legislature in Mississippi. We got nothing done. Nothing was accomplished. Bad day. Not a great look. Those were kind of the words that I heard over and over.
I also heard waste of money, waste of time from people similar to who you're speaking to. One chamber came in and bounced some ideas around. I know you've covered this, but the House was ready to go. The House gavelled in and was ready to override some vetoes. The Senate gavelled in, took a recess. Don't really know what happened, but Democrats got word that they would not be able to get a chance to override what was a bipartisan bill over the rural health care funding. You've done a great job covering this throughout. And then they decided to protest the rest of the way. Nothing got done in the Senate. They all went home, and until next year, sayonara.
Do you believe that it is unlikely that a special session is called? It appears as if the only kind of outstanding legislation at this point would be some PBM reform, the pharmacy benefit manager conversation that has been, it's been pretty heated for the last 2 years. Are you of the opinion that that will not happen?
I am. It's really hard for a governor to call a special session if they don't feel like lawmakers are on the same page. When you talk about PBM, when you talk about the SNAP error rate changes, or even when you talk about school choice, I mean, those are three topics that felt really unfinished. Not that they needed to be finished, just based on all of the uproar going into the session. Those were three topics that felt somewhat unfinished. But I don't think that lawmakers are very close. They're closer here and there on some of them. But for example, Governor Reeves is a huge school choice advocate. If he were to call a special session on school choice, I would bet on lawmakers not being able to do it.
I tend to agree with you. If universal school choice is the outcome that you're looking at through a special session, then the Senate has given no indication that that they would be ready to go down that road.
They could get public-to-public transfer done, no doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, universal, not going to happen. And then when you talk about PBM reform, that picked up steam late in the session, and then it just blew up as quickly as it built up. And so I'm not sure that lawmakers have gotten back on the same page with that. But yes, I think you're right. If a special session were to be called between now and January, I guess PBM reform, maybe this SNAP error rate change if Mississippi's about to pay a bunch of money. But I don't think school choice. And as of now, Monday, April 20th, I don't think a special session will happen.
I've asked several legislators this question. I would be curious, and if you don't feel comfortable opining here, that's fine. Ask them what grade they would give themselves for this session. What about you? Having watched it, you comfortable assigning a letter grade?
Yes, I can assign a letter grade based on what we expected and then what happened. B-.
Okay.
I think that they got some stuff done that they said they would. They got some stuff done they said they would, but not to the fullest extent they said they would. And then others were kind of just left in limbo. Maybe a B-.
Keep it locked into supertalk.fm for all the breaking news that happens in the state that affects you. JT and his team do a great job there. That's the best way for you to keep up. We're back with you tomorrow morning, just after 6 o'clock. For Lance Tolbert and JT Mitchell, I'm Richard Cross. Have a great Monday. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.